All right, we're back for more torture. I inadvertently clicked off the video, which was fine because it was an hour, and an hour of this shit's enough for me. Um, so I'm back for more torturing myself here for my collection. I know nobody cares but me, but the only thing I care about is me. So that's why I do these things. Because I want to know, and I like to collect it for my blog. Because I'm a collector of Trimet material. I have a whole history, years and years of history there. It's the Anarchist Trimet blog. All right, let's finish. Let's hear what we're listening to Bernie make all these excuses as to why he can't do Fairless, which is completely expected because we've heard His Hot Holiness, the Canadian, talk against it all the time. He doesn't believe in it either, and none of the professionals in this field do, and that's why American public transportation is a complete disaster because of the professionals. So they have no standing from my point of view because all they do is rape the money, and they don't provide service that's anywhere near worth taking. It's just bare bones shit. Okay, Bernie, let's hear your bullshit.
As I mentioned earlier, most of the free systems around the country are funded through a sales tax. A broad-based, very ubiquitous sales tax. Um, Sales taxes are great resources for programs and services like transit, but they tend to be regressive. And so, how do you look at the source based on sort of the equity picture?
Oh, here's that word again. Oh, God, they sure. Uh, there's no equity in America. Stop talking about it because some of us know it's all a lie. They keep talking about sales tax. Well, yours is a payroll tax. What's the actual difference? Okay, a payroll tax and a self-employment tax versus a sales tax. Why is your tax better than their tax? Explain it, please. But this is one of their talking points that keeps coming. Hey, man, we're almost done with this. There's only a half hour to go. Can you believe that?
And then finally, I would say that the thing that we hear every time we talk to business about funding the system is the very first question out of their mouth is, what do the customers pay? How much do the riders pay for the system? What's their share? Because they want to know that the actual beneficiaries of the system are contributing something to the operation, rather than all of it coming from, or in this case, now that STIF is in place, 8 out of 9 tenths coming from the business community. And then on the research side, I'm happy to share with you the research that's out there. There's not a ton, and the research that we did around this effort is similar to the research that was done in the 98 study. The only reason I showed that wasn't to try to harken back to that study, but was to just note that all of the recommendations in that study that were made about how to improve the system, we've done, plus the low-income fare and the access transit program. So all the things that were suggested back in those 20 years ago, we've already implemented. So that was the only reason to raise that.
I might just add on to Bernie's comment and your question, Kathy, is something that wasn't referenced that is going to be coming up in the new year, I think, for us to watch. There's an announcement out from my counterpart in LA Metro. They're going to be looking at and studying a fareless system down in LA, the first system in the world of size. So they're going to try, I think, some pilots in the new year. So be something for us all to keep on our radar screen as we continue to watch and learn. Now, fare recovery, to Bernie's point, is not 18 to 20%. It's about 8.
Oh, there you go. Oh, Dougie, you impressed me. Dougie, all right, Dougie. He's paying fucking attention, and he called it. I'm impressed, Doug, that you corrected that, okay? Because I thought it was a conspiracy theory. But Dougie for the score. For a shithead technocrat, I kind of like that guy.
They're at that smaller end with some scale. So, but I do think this conversation and the data points and knowledge
And I
continue.
still think Bottomley should be fired for not knowing the actual. Either he lied or he's ignorant. Both grounds to be terminated. But he won't because he's an elite, and elites can do what they want. They're like cops; they can do what they want. There's a segment of society gets a free pass on everything, while the rest of us get fucked.
Continues to grow. I think that's one of the areas we're going to want to watch, and happy to report back on at the right time as well. And then the second point I make is the other point, Bernie, where people are fits with the research here fits with other parts of the world where people are looking for less free and more, frequency, service levels, and reliability. I think if we look at this region has about 4% transit user of all the trips in the region, based on Metro's 2015 number.
Yeah, 4% is nothing. It's like a toy transit system. I mean, you might as well not even have it at that mode share.
Other regions in the world are at least in double digits, in some cases almost in the mid-double digits. The Stockholms, the Copenhagens, the Londons of the world.
The New York, 50%. Okay, New York, the only actual transit system in the United States. I mean, MBTA is an actual one. But New York is the only one that, even though it's a junk, been rated by the neoliberal capitalists, it's world class, and it runs 24 hours. Or it used to. Maybe it doesn't anymore.
They're in the 40% modal share. And then, so I think once you get to the double digits, now you've got scale that helps out with people who maybe need help more so than ever. I still think this region personally is still in the building stage on top of a really nice base, but I think we've still got a lot of building for that single dollar. Where do you put it for the
No, you don't. See, this is the problem. You're not at the building stage. You actually have a decent system if you would stop building and concentrate on the system. But they won't do that because the capital projects mafia is controlling the public policy. And you have a sock puppet board made up of elites.
Disadvantage for all. So I think once you get to the scale of building, then maybe that's a different time for that conversation.
I want to get to Ozzy. He's had his hand raised for a while there. Ozzy?
Thank you.
Oh, geez, Ozzy. I want to punch Ozzy.
Appreciate hearing your feedback.
I want to punch Ozzy out.
I had a couple of points. I wanted to just start with a saying that I remembered in Spanish. In honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, I've been sprinkling around these things called dichos, these little sayings, and you reminded me of one now, Bernie, throughout the presentation, which I agree is very thorough, comprehensive, and really starts to show how this has been walked up to in many ways over time. Querer es poder is meaning that is essentially it translates into where there's a will, there's a way. And I know you've structured some of the more complicated financial puzzles I've seen. So I know that there's always potential ways, but I have to say out loud that I'm not sure that's a path that's in our best interests in the end. So I wanted to just make a couple of points that it turned out to me, because what stood out is I know that there's no such thing as free, and what we're really talking about is how to. The choice is not is it free or versus
stop
not
the
free.
video. Okay. Does anybody ever educate Ozzy on the notion of helicopter money? Yes, there is such thing as free. Just depends on who you are. So he's perpetuating the myth of neoliberal capitalism that there's no such thing as free. It's a lie. Because if you're a stockbroker, you just got $5 trillion handed to your broker for free. Okay, so there is something called free. What was the last military-industrial complex audit? Was $7 trillion unaccounted for. Nobody said, yeah, it's not on the news, All we get to see is Donald Trump all day long, every day. I don't know why anybody pays attention to that anymore, but they're fixated on him.
Free. It's how is it going to be funded, and should we be relying on the funding to be coming at the box office, as it were, at the ticket box or some other way. And right now, there's another thing that gnaws at me about that question, because I want it to be funded no matter what, but I want us to be smart about how we're funding and expanding a system that to this day we have presented to the public as a essentially not trust-based system, but the boarding has been more of a you can get on, especially
honor system.
It's an honor. Thank you. It's an honor system, and we have an opportunity. To me, the question isn't is it free or not. It's more of where should the funding best be resourced from, and we already invest in some version of enforcement.
September 23rd, coming up this week.
The fare box system gives us meaningful information, but doesn't
Where's my
necessarily
Wait a
ensure higher ridership or higher recoveries. We are still having to
That's
look
last
at that through its own way. And
When's
even though
this
we
month?
have enforcement officers or compliance officers that don't need to make enforcement their reason for
What's going on
existing and
here?
being in the system, I think we should look
Where's
at
October?
alternatives to the turnstile or the fare box, because we don't have turnstiles. We don't have that physical barrier that makes it that prevents that casual. I just thought I can get away with it, which creates this entire relationship with the public that I'm not sure we want. A pre-funded system that gets sort of cashed in at the fare box with the tap, I think gives us all the information we need, but allows us to access funding through many channels, which could be private and could be public. I'm thinking, Kathy, Director Y, pardon me, about your question about the business community. And I think that there's more appetite for direct relationship funding mechanisms right now than there would be to let's add a tax onto some aspect of a business operational structure and let's feed it into an agency or more than one agency to get it into this fare box or this fareless system. That presents an entire different conversation about geographic disparity, because what regions pay and what regions benefit is an entire other sort of layer to this. And that's definitely something that we get around if we look at how to make a pre-funded mechanism that is available to
Ozzy babbling away here.
Partners. So individual cities, individual counties, or individual companies can decide, much like Metro is doing with T2020, let's do a prepaid, pre-funded system where we put in a certain amount and we promote utilization and we put it out to service our constituents, and we let that drive how we feed that system. And so there's this, natural learning, organic utilization to it. I'm also a big fan of maintaining and expanding the low-income fare model. I think of it much like when I was in school,
like
free and reduced
Seattle.
lunch. We have it here in PPS. There should be a free and a reduced fare mechanism that is available to people.
That's right.
So that we still have the benefit of that relationship.
Score 1 for Ozzy. Okay. I give him a +1. But I mean, it's just talk. It's just talk. Them talking here doesn't mean anything. It's doing that means something.
Relationship, we get the loyalty rewards, we get the tap information, but we're also creating that vehicle for people to opt in for free. And there should be criteria around it all. But I think that having those pathways and really leveraging the hop card takes us into a direction that I think allows us to be the agency that lets us leverage that 75% rider that's doing it out of choice, and really lean into that. Because at the end of the day, my final point is that the real choice to me is I between making a system that's awesome versus not awesome. I want this system to be awesome. I want to elevate public transit, and I think making it more accessible, making it so that more choice riders come in, isn't a binary, and we could do that. I believe that looking at how to fund it better, and maybe getting ourselves away from the fare box could give us more avenues. And I've never thought to call that free ridership, but it just means that we have an avenue for high schoolers to get free ridership, and we have those allies. We have an avenue for,
I don't even remember the password.
all sorts of communities and all sorts of riders to have that. And it includes, who wants to go to the farmer's market? Well, maybe the farmer's market has a mechanism where people that shop get that fare recovered or returned to their card or whatever, if they shop there. Little things like that
That's
that I
a
think
nice idea.
essentially allow us to get the benefit that we're looking for.
This is it here.
But it reshapes the conversation on how do we better fund ridership, so that we can encourage it and make it available instead of making it free. And I think that's a puzzle that is more approachable, and I think puts Trimet in the position that it needs to be, which is a great transit system. And I think that's
right.
Those bells and whistles don't come through taxing the rich and forcing them to pay into a free system. That's I don't think that's the storyline that gets us to that end.
No, of course not. You don't.
Ozzy, thank you very much for those comments. I guess I want to second a lot of what you said there. And when I look at this issue, I think I was probably involved in the 1998 study. And I think in some ways, my opinion hasn't changed from some of the stuff I saw back then, which is I've always thought that the users ought to pay some share of the cost for the service. And I don't know what that level is right now. It's 20, 25%, whatever it is here in our system. I don't know whether that's the right level or not, but it seems like a fairly good level to me. And I haven't seen, nor did I see then, anything that really showed me that going free was going to increase ridership in any significant way, get us to that, the big change from 4% to 10% to 20%, whatever else. And the region doesn't have a sales tax or any other thing that we want to do. And when I looked at it then, and I used to ride the rail and buses a lot downtown when I worked downtown and on the east side. And when Perilous Square was in place, there was a lot of undesirable folks riding the train, which made a lot of people uncomfortable on the train. And I talked to a lot of folks who would never get on a light rail vehicle or never get on.
Did you hear that? He just pulled the old, there's a lot of undesirable folks like these people. He just said it, man. These people here, these people, see? There's a lot of undesirable people on our transit system, and we must exterminate them now. These people are a disgrace, this board meeting.
On a bus because of what was going on down there. The elimination of...
Well, you could have actual security on the fucking system, you moron, which you don't. Okay? You have this huge police budget and no security on the system all the time. It's just pathetic.
Perilous Square and then the free rail actually, I believe, is taking care of that a lot. And so I worry a lot about the unintended consequences of a free fare. But again, it gets back to things that Bernie outlined pretty well. So I think
these elites are dictating policy for the rest of us. This is the problem with the United States today, is that elites are running the show, and until we can figure out how to get rid of them, we are fucked. And I don't know if we can get rid of them because the culture itself is so fat. It's so fractured, We're fighting with ourselves here in this country, and that's just a damn shame.
We need to get smarter, but I think we need to look at this in a different way, like maybe you're thinking about how do we really build a system. And ultimately, we may not have the right funding mix or the right funding sources to do this, but we've got to get a lot smarter and figure out what we really want to do to get to the level of ridership we want and really start with that as the guiding principle with everything we do, and then make sure we're servicing not only the the low income and folks who need to get from point A to point B. But you're right. Keep those choice riders on the system, because that's what's so unique about Portland.
Keep the people that can afford to take themselves. You know, they talk about equity, and then they say they want to keep the tree. You see how they lie to themselves even. Well, we want to talk about equity. We want equity in our system, but then they say keep the choice riders, the people who can actually afford getting around without the system. So they negate their own bullshit. And if you really watch this stuff, you can really. That's why I generally stop watching these, because it's so infuriating to watch these hypocrites, man. And I really do consider it the same as watching Trump. I mean, I do. It's, they're just lying to you in a much more refined manner than he is.
We want to get people out of their cars. That's one of the big reasons.
This is all gone now. All of this is gone. COVID world order, all of this agenda is gone, but they will just continue defining the reality as they want and shoving it down the rest of our throat, which is what Trump does. It's exactly the same.
We're doing all this stuff to try to eliminate greenhouse gases.
Yeah,
so
right.
I think this is
that's going to do
a rich discussion, and I suspect we'll be having.
I just did a tweet about that. It's like they talk about carbon footprint when it's like 7 or 8 industrial giants are responsible for 70% of the pollution in the world.
It again because people are going to be pushing us to have this discussion, but I want to figure out how we frame it in a way that gets a lot of the things you said, Ozzy. So thanks for bringing that up.
PDX Pinky.
I just have a quick comment.
Sure.
I think you raised this in your last point, Bruce, but I think we really do need to continue to engage community in this. I think we are 7 publicly appointed officials, and when we're talking about this, fair conversation, service expansion, that is directly going to impact our writers and the public. So I think I know that this meeting is being recorded, and so, that's great. People can take a look at it later, but I also don't know how many people are going to be tuning into Trimet board sessions on a regular basis and trying to get all of this rich information and discussion. My guess is probably not. I think they're going to be busy doing their own lives. But I know that absolutely this is going to be a conversation that so many folks are going to feel passionately about on either side of their opinion. So I think we need to have more discussions, and that was also the reason why I brought up that 1998 research that hopefully could be shared back with us, because, like I said, that's a 20-year-old research project, and I feel like now with climate change, as another top of mind issue, continuing to see gentrification, we're going to have new census data come out in 2020. I feel like we just need to be a little bit more relevant and more up to date with everything that is happening in the 21st century. So I would love to see more research happening.
Points well taken.
Thank you.
Any other board members want to weigh on this? We're way over time on this one, but I think it's an important issue, and it will be coming back to us from many ways, I'm sure.
Bruce?
Yes.
Whether it's relevant, I think it's relevant. I worked in California in the community colleges when tuition was free. And I saw the abuses where individuals would enroll in courses, blocking students that really wanted the courses, but then they didn't show up. It didn't take very long for the legislature to decide that free was not what really determined what was best for people within that.
This is, we've got neoliberal here. They always have an excuse for wanting to charge people. There's always some excuse. And it's always based on the so-called bad people. Okay, it's always excused by their their attempt to say that other people are going to take advantage. And that's part of our associated awful society we live in that blames people, it places blame on other people. And why everything is such a mess in this country right now. That's why we have Trump. It's part of it, okay? Because of people like her. Okay, you know, he didn't happen out of the clear blue sky. People supported him because they feel like they're getting fucked, and they are getting fucked. He's fucking them too, but they like him because he's so disgusting. They like that part. He's such a disgusting character, and we like him for that. Of course, they're being conned, unfortunately for them. But
that industry, and they realized that convenience was more important than price. And
yeah, except if you can't actually afford it, you bitch.
I go back to, I use that as a situation. I know when Oregon was considering making community colleges free, it was like learn from your southern neighbors about the lack
college
of
used to be
of that
free.
type of
And
program.
When I went to college, it was a reasonable price. Okay, it wasn't $50,000 a year. It's just so frustrating to have to watch these elites talking about things because they're so removed from reality. They talk from their position as an elite, their experience as an elite. They don't have any understanding or empathy about the people that are over here. You know, these people here. They don't care about them at all.
Rings with me is that, again, more recently, in terms of my work experience, we found that convenience always weighed out heavier with individuals than price. Now, we've got programs that support individuals that have difficulty coming up with price. But, you know, I just personally, at this point, believe that it's reasonable with an agency as complex as Trimet and with all the demand placed on it. I think people make ideological requests for things without understanding the consequences of those requests. And, you know, I'm happy to continue the conversation, but I think it has to be, we have an obligation as individual board members to try to help the community understand the funding mechanisms and what the consequences are, because most people just think free is free.
Did you hear your fucking general manager, you stupid ass bitch? 8% of the ride is covered by the fare. So let's look at that, okay? Let's just take a little quick look at that. So, okay, the ride's $2.50, right? So 8% of that is what? 2 cents. Okay. Okay. It's not, no, it's not. Yeah, it's 2 cents. So 2 cents is what, I mean, I just calculate it yourself. What's 8% of 250? It's 2 cents. And they're making a deal over 2 cents.
They don't realize that there's a consequence to that. And, you know, so anyway, I'll end my conversation that way. But, you know, I've had experience where free doesn't work. And if we have choice riders, I think that, and we're making provisions for people who have limited resources, I think we've got the best of every world right now. And I don't think it has anything to do with which century we're in.
Okay, well, that was a nice speech and it's full of shit.
I think you're on mute, Bruce.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I just said thank you very much, Linda. Any other comments or thoughts from the rest of the board? All right, I'm not seeing any. So here we are. It is at 11:42. We were scheduled to take a break at 11:15 and then get back to the parent enforcement and policy changes. How's the board doing? We want to just forge ahead, or
a 10-minute break would be good.
All right. Well, why don't we take a 10-minute break, but then, so we're going to be going a little longer. That's okay with everybody?
Wait a minute. There's not even half
We,
hour left here.
Mr. Board President, we have a choice that might, as an alternative for consider, take a 10-minute break, come back and continue on for the time allocated, extending the time. Or conversely, depending on how the board wishes, we could remove this item and actually cover it at one of the next October board briefings in about three weeks. It's your decision. I'm just trying to give you alternatives here.
That's a good alternative. I was going to suggest that dialogue, but if you hadn't. So
Policy changes.
my preference would actually be to not try to squeeze that in today. I think I'm seeing some fatigue on people right at the moment, and we've got a really good dialogue.
I'm fine with
wrap up.
fine
So
with moving it, Mr. Chair.
I hear Keith. How about Ozzy?
I actually prefer we move it.
Okay. Lori?
Well, maybe this is the end of this shithole.
As long as we're not overloading the agenda on our next meeting, I don't want to end up in the same position of running out of time, but that's fine with me.
Well, you're at home. You have nothing else to do anyway. What do you
Linda?
care?
Yeah, I'm fine with moving it.
You know, I've never understood why they would put people on the board that don't want to put in the time on the board. Well, actually, I do understand. They're just sock puppets to approve the bullshit.
Okay. And Kathy?
That's fine.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking what we ought to do is instead of trying to force some time.
I think it's fine too.
Who did I miss? Oh, Travis. Sorry about that.
I agree. I'm in.
All right. Thank you. All right. Well, rather than taking a break, why don't we just kind of do some closing thoughts here? Doug, do you have any thoughts for us in terms of close?
I sure do. Thank you. So to those who are presenting, Marla and Justin and to John Gardner, so just stay tuned. We'll get you reconnected in here. We're going to target Mr. Board President for the October board briefing session coming up here in about 3+ weeks. We don't want to lose this. So I'll put that one aside. Firstly, from my perspective, from management perspective, we put a lot at you today in about 3 hours. I really welcome the dialogue, particularly on the financial piece, which feeds to the business plan.
The financial piece was worth viewing. A Bernie Bottomley, hatchet job was not worth viewing.
And you've given us some really salient and helpful nuggets for us to reconnect on that business plan, let alone the finance piece. So what you will see next is coming up to the business plan is the November board strategy session. We do not have a board meeting, official board meeting in November, but that's when we'll bring the next round of management needs to think about some of the comments that you were made today, and we will reflect that back to you at the November session as we now move on in the building of the fiscal year budget in question for FY21 or 2022. But also the business plan itself for the year in question and beyond. So I think in that piece it was really helpful. To the last section we just had on the fair enforcement, as I listened to the discussion, what I might suggest is I think this discussion, President Warren, as you've indicated, this needs to continue around fair enforcement and whether there are other ways to look at things. So I would suggest that management come back to the board in an update at maybe a future board strategy session, whether it be March or September, probably September one this time next year, with an update on where we are, particularly after learning about LA. I think that there may be some really helpful information and that may help us figure out what does Trimet want to take out of that and move on it. So that's what I might suggest. But I think today was just from my perspective, a very useful and valuable session in particular. So I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Good. Well, I guess my closing thoughts would be that, yeah, I thought there was a lot of interest, especially on the finance and budget discussion. And what I really heard was there's a desire by the board to really stay connected, maybe get involved right on the kind of the make sure we're all on the same page in terms of criteria for how we're going to move forward with some of the priorities and the things we want to move into the next year's budget. So I think we've got a great deal of interest and support from the board to get some time to do that.
Of course you have a support from the board. I mean, when do you not
I
have
also
support
think
from
I heard a desire to keep us updated on some of the changes and the assumptions, like the STIF monies, the state monies, or any CARES Act 2 type stuff, as that boils out. Just make sure we're brought up to speed. If you hear something, I think what I'm hearing here is just send us a quick note so we know what's going on, just to keep us up to speed on that. Our business plan, I think we had a pretty good discussion. We didn't dig into it as much, but again, I would just remind folks that this is a precursor to the budget and the priorities for the general manager and the organization. So I will follow up with the board on the general manager's goals and objectives for this current fiscal year we're in. And so, Keith, if you can get back on the suggestions that Doug, you and me, that'd be great. I can get that out to the board. And
What
I
is that
encourage the
noise?
board
That
to really take a
sniffling
close
noise.
look at that, to make
Hear
sure
that?
we're
What is that?
capturing the priorities and issues that we want the general manager to focus on in the next year and a half. And we can get that finalized and make it clear to everybody else what we're looking at. And then I guess the only other thing I would say is in terms of the Farce analysis, what I'm hearing is a need for data and information. So yeah.
So there's no, you heard it. You're not going to do it. Stop lying. Just leave us alone.
And the rest of the staff and what's going on around the United States. We need to get that information, and this is something that will not go away. I know that. So we'll be talking about it some more.
Yeah.
So all in all, I was really pleased with today's session and the information that was presented. I guess I would ask the board if they have any final comments or suggestions before we sign off.
Thank God it's over.
Travis?
Why, thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I just want to say that it was great information similar to last Friday.
Here we go again.
Just a string of just great meetings that add to kind of the fabric of our discussion and our kind of knowledge base. I thought today's was very thorough with the financial projections and then also the information that we received on kind of the fair and the adjustments there, and then also on the business plan, all things that correlate with one another that actually, as I listened and took in all the information, kind of all the intersections of all the things that we're talking about have significant impacts over the next 3, 5, 10 years. But we've got some critical issues that we have to cover in the next 3 to 5 years, that all the things that we just referenced this morning kind of have these intersections. And I want to take time to kind of digest it all as we continue to deliberate the challenges that we see in front of us, but also the opportunities. So thank you to the team for the immense amount of work that you put into all of these presentations. It doesn't really reflect just in the short time that you have to share with us, but we know what it takes to put all of this together. So thank you. Very, very worth our time.
Good, thanks. Kathy, any comments?
I also just echo what Travis said. I really appreciate the team for really highlighting a lot of high-level issues for the board to consider. I thought all the presentations were great, and I guess I'm just going to have to find some more time processing everything, because it was a lot that we covered. I don't know if we can make some of these sessions in the future a little bit more light, maybe just with 1 or 2 topics. That would be sort of just, I don't know, my request, so that it's not, 3.5 hour long meetings. But I really enjoyed all of these topics, and I agree that moving forward, we're just going to have to get more innovative and creative about the way that we're serving writers.
Thanks. Keith?
Thank you. I think this was a very good meeting. A lot of good information, a lot to digest, but at the same time, a lot of good information. And like I say, I just applaud Doug and your team for bringing very comprehensive information. Dee, Alan, and certainly Bernie, everyone that brought information today it was like I say, it was really good information for us, and it helps us so we can make informed decisions, and that's the important part of it. That's what I really appreciate. So thank you.
You appreciate it. 2468.
Linda?
Oh, Linda.
Everyone else, I appreciated the presentations. I thought they were very concise and informative. And my takeaway from it, which has been consistent all along, is just how complex this organization is in terms of where its funding comes from, how we plan, how we try to evaluate strategies for the way we serve the public. It's just, it's very complex. And the information that was given today, particularly around the financial outlook, is helpful to me as I talk to individuals who continually want more from Trimet, but don't understand the trade-offs and the financial pressures that the agency is under. So thank you very much.
Lori?
Was that me that you called on?
Yes, it was.
Sorry, my connection dropped for just a second there. Yeah, I want to also acknowledge all the tremendous amount of staff time that went into these presentations. So it's very, very much appreciated, and it's very impressive, everything that you've pulled together for us. I think I want to, brag a little bit about Trimet. If you look at the challenges that the entire country is dealing with right now, and on top of COVID, of course, in the West Coast we have the air quality issues and the economic crisis that we're undergoing. It's very impressive that how well Trimet is doing, how we've been able to continue to serve our customers. No layoffs. We're not retrenching, but we're actually, as we've shown today, we're looking to the future, how to continue to improve and make the service even better. So I'm just really thrilled and really proud to be associated with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Ozzy?
Well, next.
Thank you very much. There we go. I appreciate it. Hey, thanks to everyone that presented today. Alan, Dee, and Bernie, you all did a fantastic job working through these issues, and your information is well structured. I really appreciate the preparation to present today. And so to Doug and the staff, I just want to say that, as a board member, it's really important to navigate all of this. As I see you navigate all this, that I feel not only confident, and I do, but I also want to be able to turn around and properly defend the tough decisions that are being made. So that's where just being able to understand these things and take this time is really, really meaningful. So I really appreciate that. And I want to continue to be able to defend these tough decisions. So I want to continue to understand them, and that's important to me. And to the board, I know that we're stuck between what we can be and what we want to be right now, because the world has created very different decisions for us right now. But in becoming that entity we want to be, while we're navigating this, I think it's very important to keep in mind our commitment to the public, and how, regardless of the tough decisions we have to make here, the North Star is how do we continue to create a transit agency that we are helping uphold the highest interest for the public and the highest value proposition for the public, which is more than just, did it get me there on time? That's the jobs, the benefits, the health, the community connectivity, all of that. And the equity and access is a part of that. So let's continue to keep that in mind and always strive to do our best within what we can be while we're becoming what we want to be.
Wow. Ozzy, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Well, I guess I just want to echo again, thanks to the staff for doing a hard prep to make this look pretty easy. I want to acknowledge the board for actually, and staff for actually learning how to use WebEx a whole lot better. We're doing a pretty good job here, so I like that. And I just have to say how humbled and proud I am to be part of this board. It's a good group of folks, who are very thoughtful, and I do appreciate your public service. So thanks for what you do. With that, I'm going to say let's end this meeting. And Doug, I'll look for you and the staff to come up with a way how we get the discussion of the item we missed today on board at one of our upcoming meetings without overloading us. But I think we did. You guys did well today, and I feel like we needed all the time we needed on this item. So thank you.
Thank you all. And yes, leave that to me, President Warner. I'll take care of it.
All right, sounds good.
You'll take.
All right,
have
a good rest of the day, you guys.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Meeting it was.
All right, well, enough of that. Let me just end this. Because nothing's free, right? Nothing is free. That's the elites tell us. Nothing is free.
China is totally wired. Oh, hi, I'm Max Kaiser. This is the Kaiser Report. Have you ever played high-low poker? That's when the low hand and the high hand win. So we got a situation in the global economy right now where in the currency markets, various countries are trying to win with the worst possible hand. Let's see how this works out. Stacey Herbert.
All right. We have in the news, we have a lot of gold, we have a lot of Bitcoin, and of course, in the past week, we've seen the acceleration of this central bank digital currency unrolling across the world. First, Raoul Powell says that the endless ongoing desire for each trading block to undertake more and more stimulus is why Bitcoin and gold will continue to outperform versus all currencies over time, but only Bitcoin has outperformed the G4 central bank balance sheet. And he was referring to Walter Bloomberg tweet that
I have some Bitcoin. You know, I bought Bitcoin way back when it first came out. And I was with a broker called Trade Hill who got hacked. And they stole all the Bitcoin. They did pay me back. And then I had Bitcoin again. After they paid me back, I put my Bitcoins in Mt. Gox. And Mt. Gox, I had already cashed out, and I made a nice profit. Of course, I could have been a millionaire if I had known that it was going to do. I could have been a billionaire if I knew that. Of course, you know, I had no idea it was going to go like this. The problem with Bitcoin is if the electricity goes out, so does your Bitcoins. And if the broker gets hacked, that's it for your Bitcoins. And if you're storing it on, like I have a ledger, your own personal device, and that goes out, there goes your Bitcoin. It's, you know, gold on the other hand, you can see it, you can hold it. I'm still a big gold bug.
said top official signals ECB would allow inflation to overshoot, ECB to pursue inflation target as aggressively as Fed.
Anyway, I'm not going to watch this, but I wanted to. Central banks begin airdropping free money. Yes, there is such thing as free. You just have to be in the right position to get it. And we serfs are not. And that's enough of this farce called the Trimet sock puppet meeting.